Assalamualaikum. Thanks for joining me this Friday on 7 Edition. I'm Ras Adibaradzi and these are tonight's headlines. Malaysia seeks $7.5 billion in repatriations over dealings with 1MDB. Election court orders recount for Tasik Gelugo. And Pentagon chief resigns amid troops withdrawal. Hello, it's good to see you again. We begin with this story. Malaysia is seeking $7.5 billion in repatriations from Goldman Sachs Group Inc. over its dealings with scandal-linked state fund One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said Malaysian prosecutors this week filed charges against Goldman Sachs in connection with its role as underwriter and arranger of 3 bond sales that raised $6.5 billion for 1MDB. Goldman Sachs has consistently denied wrongdoing and said certain members of the former Malaysian government and 1MDB lied to the bank about the proceeds of the bond sales. In addition to the bonds, total value Goldman Sachs should also return $1 billion to cover $600 million in fees paid to the bank and bond coupons. The 3 10-year bonds carried coupons ranging from 4.4 to 5.99%. Lim also said that repatriations should at least be more than $1.8 billion. The sum Goldman has told investors it has set aside to cover potential losses related to 1MDB legal proceedings. The Special Election Court today allowed an application for a recount of votes cast in the Tasik Gelugo parliamentary seat during the 14th general election. Judge Datuk Hashim Hamzah ordered that all copies of Form 14, which contains the tabulation of votes for the federal seat, be unsealed for scrutiny by High Court Senior Assistant Registrar. He said the breaking of the seal and opening of the 136 copies of Form 14 in the presence of lawyers for all parties involved will be held at the Pulau Pinang High Court on January 2nd next year. Deputy Foreign Minister Senator Datuk Marzuki Yahya had filed the election petition against the Tasik Gelugo election results, but this was dismissed by the Special Election Court in September. He appealed to the Federal Court, which overturned the earlier decision and ordered for the case to undergo a full trial before the Special Election Court. Datuk Marzuki then applied for all copies of Form 14 to be opened for a recount before the court and in the presence of lawyers in the case. The judge then ordered all parties to be present in court on January 14th for mention of the case after the recount. Datuk Marzuki lost by 81 votes to BN's candidate Datuk Shabuddin Yahya, but he has since resigned from the party. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, is detailing the method to enable the appointment of its chief commissioner to be decided by the anti-graft body itself. This also includes a proposal for the appointment of the MACC's chief to be made by a Parliament Select Committee, PSC.
Its Chief Commissioner, Datuk Sri Muhammad Shukri Abdul, said the appointment through the PSC would require amendments to the MACC Act 2009.
Di mana peranan PSC ini ialah mencadangkan nama Ketua Putrajaya untuk dilantik oleh Agong. Previously, pelantikan KP dicadangkan oleh PM dan dilantik oleh Agong. Tapi yang baru ni kita mencadangkan supaya Parliament Select Committee yang bercadangkan nama KP dan dilantik oleh Agong. Ini satu pembaharuan lah.
Datuk Sri Muhammad Shukri was speaking at a joint briefing session in Putrajaya with National Centre for Governance, Integrity and Anti-Corruption GIACC Director General Tan Sri Abu Qasim Muhammad on the final result report on efforts to fight corruption in Malaysia from June to December 2018 today. He also said the MACC wants those appointed to do the task without fear. He added that the appointment through the PSC, which included elected representatives from the government and opposition, would make the selected individual to be seen as more transparent and not inclined to any party. The National Anti-Corruption Plan 2019 to 2023, NACP, will be launched by the Prime Minister on January 31st. According to Governance, Integrity and Anti-Corruption Centre, GIACC Director General Tan Sri Abu Qasim Mohamad, the move is to fully address governance, integrity and corruption issues.
Intipati Plan International ialah dia akan merangkumkan beberapa perkara dasar, iaitu 3 elemen penting yang besar, iaitu sebahagian daripada manifesto yang dijanjikan oleh kerajaan akan juga termasuk di dalam Plan Integrity Nasional tersebut.
Tan Sri Abu Qasim said the report submitted by the review committee appointed by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime will also be taken into account. Suggestions by the Institutional Reforms Committee (IRC) in NACP will also be included after reviewing them. Tan Sri Abu Qasim said the NACP was one of the 61 initiatives which had been outlined and decided in the 5 Special Cabinet Committee on Anti-Corruption meetings held between June and December.
Veteran newsman and the scribe blog writer Dato' A. Kadir Jassin has joined the chorus in calling for the resignation of Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, P. Waitamurthy. Dato' Kadir said he shares the public sentiment in that Waitamurthy had lost the confidence of the masses due to his action in promoting division among the people.
In his latest blog entry today, Dato' Kadir said he agreed with the public that Waitamurthy had lost his credential as he had become a character who creates division, and the Hindraf chairman should resign as a minister as he was incapable of safeguarding national unity. Dato' Kadir also feels it's best for Waitamurthy to voluntarily step down instead of placing the burden on Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, despite the latter's assurance that he is okay with Waitamurthy's performance. He went on to apologise for being blunt, but also believes that Waitamurthy had wasted the opportunity and the highest honour given to him as a cabinet minister. Waitamurthy has come under fire following his statement, which was deemed derogatory for alleging abuse of human rights involving the Indian community. He had allegedly said Hindu temples in Malaysia were demolished without reason by the authorities and called for the ratification of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, ICERD. Waitamurthy was also accused of fanning racial tension in the Seafield Sri Maha Mariamman Temple riots last month, which claimed the life of fireman Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim. Dato' Kadir added the culprits must be tracked down and duly punished. He also said it was tragic for Muhammad Adib, who was merely carrying out his duty to save lives and properties, was caught in the crosshairs and paid dearly with his life.
In other news, the Kuala Lumpur High Court today ordered former FGV Holdings Berhad chairman Tan Sri Issa Samad and 8 others to file their statements of defence in the suit brought by the company to recover a 514 million ringgit loss over its acquisition of London-listed Asia Plantation Limited (APL) in 2014. The High Court Deputy Registrar Farah Shuhada Ramli ordered all the defendants to file the statements by January 31st, 2019.
Besides Tan Sri Issa, the 8 others are FGV Holdings former President and CEO Datuk Muhammad Emi Mavani Abdullah, former Senior General Manager for Downstream Cluster Rashdan alias Muhammad, and former Chief Financial Officer Ahmad Tifli Muhammad Talha. The remaining 5 are former FGV non-executive directors. Lawyer Lavinia Kumarendran, representing Tan Sri Muhammad Issa, told reporters that the 9 defendants received a copy of the statement of claim on December 19th, while 5 other defendants have yet to receive theirs. They are former Vice President for Business Development of Downstream Cluster, Farisan Mokhtar, and 4 former FGV non-executive directors, namely Dato' Omar Salim, Dato' Nur Ehsanuddin Muhammad Harun Narashid, Dato' Yahaya Abdul Jabbar, and Dato' Faizul Ahmad. FGV Holdings initiated the legal action in November against the 14 people for the loss suffered from their failure to discharge their respective fiduciary duty of fidelity and/or duty to exercise reasonable care, skill and diligence. FGV is seeking, among other things, relief from the defendants for damages totaling 514 million ringgit for loss from the acquisition of APL and, alternatively, damages for loss from the acquisition of APL to be assessed by the court. The next case management has been set for February 12, 2019 before High Court Judge Dato' Azimah Omar.
They were promised jobs as plumbers, but ended up forced as online gambling operators. That was the ill fate of 2 Chinese nationals. They claim they were also abused by an illegal gambling syndicate operating in a 4-story luxurious bungalow before they were eventually saved by the police.
A massive police raid at a bungalow in Taman Equine at about 4 p.m. yesterday saw the arrest of 32 individuals, including 3 women between the ages of 20 and 52. Initial investigations revealed that the syndicate collected bets from online gamblers in China, estimated at about 15 million ringgit since it started operations mid-November.
Rupa-rupanya tempat ini merupakan satu pusat operasi untuk kegiatan perjudian online. Dan paling menariknya pula, pusat operasi ini adalah untuk menyediakan servis bagi pejudi-pejudi yang berada di luar negara. Mereka ini menggunakan aplikasi media sosial untuk memasarkan perjudian-perjudian yang ada, tetapi pelanggannya bukan di Malaysia. Pelanggannya dipercayai di luar negara.
The 2 Chinese nationals rescued were found handcuffed to a bed with abuse marks on their hands and faces, a result of their attempts to flee after realizing that they had been conned by the syndicate. 16 computers, modems, ATM cards from various Chinese commercial banks and transaction validation code receiver devices were also seized. Meanwhile, the syndicate's mastermind and the homeowner are still being identified. The case is being investigated under the Common Gaming Houses Act and the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act.
A 22-year-old security guard has been charged at the Air Keroh Sessions Court in Melaka for committing statutory rape last May. The accused, Muhammad Faizal Abdullah Hadi, however, pleaded not guilty before Judge Norma Ismail. According to the charge, Muhammad Faizal raped a 15-year-old girl at a hotel in Sungai Udang, Melaka at 7:45 a.m. on May 7th. Upon conviction, he faces a maximum of 20 years imprisonment and whipping. The court also denied him bail and has set January 22nd for re-mention of case. When we return, unintentional bump leads to racial argument. The details next. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back. Now it's time for Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. A majority of people would get slightly annoyed, if not more, when somebody abruptly brushes past or knocks into you, giving you that split second of distress. But then you let it go because most of the time it's unintentional. This foul-mouthed bus passenger, however, showed no mercy when he was shoved, reacting in a way that got netizens hot under the collar.
The man in yellow, standing beside the man wearing the cap, was believed to have accidentally bumped into the seated Chinese man when he was heading up to the upper deck of the bus. The unsettling video, uploaded on Facebook by Taufik Istafan, has garnered over 248,000 views. It said in the post that the yellow shirt man had repeatedly apologized, but the Chinese man responded with aggression and eventually made a snide remark on the man's race. The man with the cap then stood up to defend what he heard as a racist remark. things got more intense, the young Malay man in yellow tried to calm them down. Apparently, it's said that the Chinese man threw more profane words at both of them, but the recording had ended prior. While many netizens condemned the man for his actions, they did praise the man in the yellow shirt for remaining calm and patient throughout the entire situation.
There are some things that scar us for life, and be one of those we can never forget. On Wednesday, a 33-year-old man surnamed Chang went viral on social media after he shockingly slapped his teacher in public over the punishment he received in secondary school 20 years ago. China Press reported that the incident occurred last July in Henan, China. Responding to speculations, Chang explained that his teacher Zhao used to punish him by literally stepping on him multiple times back when he was 13 years old. Following his confession, a few other ex-students also revealed how Zhao used to physically abuse the students. The school has since confirmed the recent incident and a police report has been launched. Chang was nabbed by the police at a train station while the teacher has already recovered from the minor injuries. It was understood that he is still a teacher to this day. Oh my. Now, updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM's) international reserves declined by $600 million to $101.4 billion as at December 14th, compared with 2 weeks earlier. The central bank said the international reserves were sufficient to finance 7.4 months of retained imports and was 1 time the short-term external debt. The foreign reserves had declined from $102 billion on November 30th. The BNM added the reserves were sufficient to finance 7.5 months of retained imports and were 1 time the short-term external debt. The main components of the international reserves were foreign currency reserves, international monetary fund reserves position, special drawing rights, gold and other reserve assets. As for the ringgit, it had strengthened slightly against the US dollar during the 2-week period to 4.1815 on December 14th from 4.188 on November 30th. The 70 ringgit registration fee for new tourist accommodation premises will be waived from January 1st to March 31st next year. This is to encourage operators to register their businesses with the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry. Its Minister, Dato' Muhammadin Ketapi, said the premises include hotels, resorts, lodges, hostels and homestays nationwide. He also said the ministry is targeting about 1,700 operators coming forward to register during the 3-month period. Dato' Muhammadin added the ministry is also introducing more initiatives to boost tourist arrivals and has set a target of 28.1 million tourists and receipts of 92.2 billion ringgit next year. The ministry's main focus for next year is also to develop the eco and culture tourism sector. To ensure Malaysia remains competitive, the ministry also had begun studying the country's tourism policy and is in the final phase of finalising it.